The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Quirky Dog Podcast, inspired by some of the quirkiest dogs you can ever imagine and the owners who love them. This podcast is brought to you by the quirky couple themselves, Scott and Jess Williams. Their aim is to educate and entertain. Here's Scott and Jess.
Welcome, guys, and happy Wednesday. We're coming to you from Salem, New Hampshire today. And today we have a very special guest. We have one of Scott's trainer friends. How long have you known Penny?
Since 2009, so 10, 11 years, 12 years now.
Long time. So one of his
Very
trainer
close.
friends from
one
California.
One of my mentors.
And what happened was Scott actually was visiting one of his other friends last month who was ailing in health, and he went to stop and visit, and he drove by Penny's freaking training location. So if you are out in the Pasadena area, I want you guys to check out Scott Fox Training. And you drove by, you took a picture, they had coffee, and now Penny's on the podcast. So Penny, thank you so much for joining us today. And if you guys missed it, our quirky tip of the day is to check out Scott Fox Dog Training.
Altadena, California.
Penny Fox Scott, thank you so much, or Scott Fox, I'm sorry, I'm screwing that up. Thank you so much for coming on today. I have not personally met Penny, but Scott speaks very highly of you. So you guys met doing nose work together, is that what happened?
Yeah, I was one of the original founding instructors for the original scent work organization, which is the National Association of Canine Scent Work.
Cool.
And Scott joined the instructors program way back 10 years ago. Insane.
Yeah.
It's gone nuts.
Yeah. Nose work rules North America, that's for sure. And you are doing so much more with your training business now. When Scott was out there, you're doing a ton of stuff with scent, like with your classes and stuff. Can you just point to what some of that other unique stuff is? Because I was just so excited to hear about it.
I have lots of different things. I teach scent work or nose work. It's all the same, just different organizations. But I also do something involved with the North American Sport Dog Association, which is NASDA. And then I have a whole separate thing, which is a puppy preschool. But I teach predominantly scent work.
Cool.
I do some obedience, but not much.
Cool.
I find it frustrating.
Yeah. And are you working with mostly pet dogs when you're teaching this scent work?
Most of my students become performance people.
Okay.
I really try to push them that way because the dogs really want to work and they really enjoy the competition. And at least with scent work, they can't really mess it up that much. So most of my students become performance people, and I have some who are, retired agility dogs that come into doing performance stuff with me. Yeah. So I push people to compete. I really do.
Yeah. And awesome.
One of the things I know we're going to talk about a lot, but the deer sheds is one of the competitions. How do you teach that? And I brought along an antler because I had messed around with this with my dog. But in an urban environment, I mean, are you just teaching them how to find that scent? But in a competition, I'm assuming it's more of a natural wilderness type of a thing, isn't it, or no?
It is. It's I love shed. I think it's like one of the most exciting sports to do because nothing has to die for it. I have retrievers, and I don't have to go and kill ducks to prove that my dogs can retrieve. So I like.
Sure. You and Jess will be on the same page with that.
Yeah, I just hate handling the dead birds, So shed for me was a really great transition to be able to prove that my dogs can retrieve and bring to hand and do the work, even though nothing dies. So I just use them as a toy. And so my dogs don't have antlers to chew on, and all their toys are just antlers. And so I pick them up, I throw them, it's a retrieve, and it becomes a game, and then I just put them away.
Do you use
Sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do you use like the small pieces that they sell at Petco, or do you try and go out and find a good sized piece like this?
Big sizes, big ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Because the little ones really look like chews.
Right.
And because they've been split, there's a lot of the inner core, I don't know what it's called, that the dogs want to eat. So it's better to have a real antler. And the bigger the better, because in competitions they're pretty big.
Right.
And I was up in Canada with Zest, and the antler was as big as her.
Sure.
It was like this big, and she picked it up, didn't care.
That's cool.
So I make it into a game. So to me, it's all about the game of finding the antlers and bringing them back to me. But I don't leave them out. They're not a toy. Yeah, they're just for work.
Right. It's exciting. I know people that wanted to do it for the money of selling these sheds. And, you know, usually when the money is the motivator, they're going to quit because there's a lot of work that goes into this stuff. And you do it for fun. You do it to enjoy doing it so the dog can enjoy it. And if you're only thinking about, oh, I'm going to make all this extra money, to me, it just kind of undermines the whole thing, you know?
Well, I agree. And I think that it's just a bit of fun. And it's so easy to put on. I'll come out and put a shed trial on for you. It's so easy. I was in Hawaii judging and we had a spare day. So I just said, hey, why don't we put on a shed trial? And they're just like, okay. And so that's what we did. Somebody dismantled their lampshade, which was made out of antlers. And we used those antlers as the shed articles.
Well, we're holding you to it, Penny. We're holding you to it.
I know she'll come. She came for me before, so I know she'll come out. It's not a problem.
Scott was out with his coroplast.
And I'll just say briefly, she came out to do the odor recognition test with about 30 of my students, and the hotel she was staying in flooded.
Oh my God! We'll put you up somewhere nicer this time.
It was insane. And I got this phone call from the manager saying, you need to evacuate. And I thought it was Scott taking the piss. I was just like, you're joking. Scott, this is a really bad idea. And he said, I don't know who you're talking to because this is
That's what people think. You have them out to a trial and you're telling them to evacuate their hotel. All right. Tell me a little bit about, I know that you're gearing towards having people go the performance route because, you know, it's more fun for the dogs and the owners and everybody likes the ribbons. But tell us a bit about what you think that scent work does strengthening the bond between dog and owner, because you've been seeing it now for the past 5 to 10 years in person still, and we haven't been doing as many of these classes the past decade.
That's the beginning of the whole thing, isn't it? That a game like scent work, where the dogs are in control, can give the dogs the freedom to be a little bit more. What's the word I want to say? Just a little bit more present. So the handler is always sort of in the background and the dog's doing the work. And so it makes them have a little bit, the handlers don't have to control the dog so much, even though there's a lot of training that needs to go into be, up at the top position. But really, it gives, in my opinion, what I've seen is it gives the dogs the freedom to be themselves without having to be controlled by it. Because all they're doing is sniffing. It doesn't matter what they're looking for. All they're doing is sniffing. Now, I have had people complain that their dogs are sniffing, and it's just like, well, what did you think you signed up for? It's called like scent work and nose work. It's not going to be, it's kind of weird. But the dogs seem to be more relaxed. And I've had some extraordinary breakthroughs with very fearful dogs where in a couple of classes, they're just like on it and really, really running into the building, really excited. And I think that using their nose can deflect all of the other fear issues that may be going on around them. And it's been, the change has been remarkable. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and in a sense, like the way you're describing it, they're kind of like being put into the driver's seat. You know what I mean? And that is a difference in that sport that I am not really recognizing, but now you saying it, I see it. You don't have the energy of the handler nearby. You're not being told to do anything at all times. Like you're really working in your own, vein. Like the dogs are the ones that are creating their own channel.
Right, and there are some handlers who, and I judge quite a lot, who overhandle, and you can see that the dogs are just like, well, you do it then. If you know where it is, then you do it. Yeah. And you can see them shut down, and that's just a different training style to me. I'm very much more let the dogs do the work, and they'll show you exactly what's going on, and then you can follow on behind. And so the way I teach is I do a lot of exercises where the handlers just observe what the dogs are doing so that they can actually start to read them and understand what's going on. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, I was going to say on the other end of the spectrum, you have a lot of handlers that have a certain amount of anxiety. And when the dog can get away from the handler a little bit, they can actually relax. Yeah. And when this anxious person is right up their butt all the time, it stresses the dog out too, And
I do a lot of exercises where I make the handlers just sit in a chair and not move, and then the dogs could go, oh, thank God, I can work, and it's, and it gives the handlers the confidence in the end. So once the handlers can see that the dogs can do it without them having to be right there, then I think there's a change and a shift in their relationship where they become much more in tune with each other.
And they start trusting the dog more, instead of second guessing the dog all the time.
Yeah. Most of the time, and I don't do any blind searches where the handlers don't know where they are. I always say that the competition is the test.
Right.
I think people spend so much time testing their dogs all the time
Sure.
that I just don't do it.
Yeah.
I find that I want them to learn what they're looking at. It's much more powerful, really.
Yeah. So you're judging and you're competing and you're training. You're doing all these things within the vein of scent work right now.
Yeah, I do a lot of judging.
Yeah. So your students always pass then.
No, but I run people's dogs. Sometimes people say, and then I beat them, and then they get really upset. They're just like, well, what do you expect? It's just that. I just love competing. Yeah. So to me, competing, whatever the sport, is me and my dog being a team and going out to prove that I can do what I say I can do.
Well, the nice thing about the shed dogs is that they actually bring back the shed. So that's their alert. That's their whole thing. They bring it back to the handler. And when you get into the rodents, that's a barking alert, I'm assuming, when they find...
It's actually, so this is the really brilliant thing about NASDA that puts it ahead of everything else, is the judge calls
the
yes.
alert. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow.
So the judge says, yes, your dog has found it. So the handlers don't have to do anything, which really increases their confidence because they don't even have to worry about getting it right.
Right.
So, and I'm a senior judge for NASDA because I really enjoy that. And I encourage a lot of my students to do, whether it's antlers, the shed, or the rats. Rats are in special boxes. And then there's a whole another thing called lost item recovery, which is just amazing.
That sounds really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. That's brilliant because it's really...
And that seems to be probably a way more advanced, the lost item recovery, compared to, say, rodents or even a shed.
Yeah. Well, the rodents, most of the dogs are going to go for a rat.
Yeah.
Because and in trailing and locating, we do a trail, so they follow a track,
right,
or they follow a trail,
as opposed to a keychain.
As opposed to a keychain.
Yeah.
But it's so easy to teach your dogs to find your stuff. And it just becomes really fun, and it becomes, and actually Zest gets hired quite a lot. If people lose stuff, they ask me to come and help them find. And she's found a wedding ring in the middle of an agility course and stuff like that. So, but it is a bit harder. But again, the judge says yes. It's only at the top levels now. We're just designing the grand championship levels where the handler's actually going to have to call it. But it takes all the pressure off.
Yeah,
and it gives dogs a huge confidence boost because they don't have to worry about the handler.
Well, and I like that there's so many different levels of searching. They're not just searching for scents or whatever and Q-tips. And tell us, the NASDA is the acronym, but tell us what that stands for, just so people are aware.
It's the North American Sport Dog Association.
Okay.
And it's actually was designed by Liz Carter, who is a Jack Russell person.
Okay.
And they did these games at the Jack Russell Specialty a couple of years ago, and everybody loved it. And then it just took off.
Cool.
And I put on some big trials because it's fun and it's easy to put on. It's not as complicated. You just need some rats and some antlers and some keys, basically. So it's not difficult.
Yeah.
And the people are successful, and it fuels the whole sort of performance thing for me, and it makes them want to come back.
Yeah, when people are successful, they want to keep doing it. When they get shut down every time they go to a trial, they're not going to be as excited about it. Yeah.
Right. And I invest in really good ribbons, and stuff like that. So people always want to trial for us because they want the big ribbons and all of that stuff.
Sure.
And it's worth the investment, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're judging as a NASDA judge right now, mostly?
No, I do a lot of AKC.
AKC,
AKC, and NASDA.
Okay. And are you local, or you're traveling to judge, or what is that like?
Oh, I go all over the place. So I spent Thanksgiving in Hawaii.
Okay.
Really
and that was a write-off.
It was fun. It was fun. It was really fun. And that was an AKC trial, and that was, I felt for them because they only have 2 scent work trials a year, so there was so much pressure for these dogs to be successful. That's why I did a NASDA trial for them at the end, just to break it up a little bit. And they all got ribbons, and I mailed them out ribbons and stuff so that they got some support, really, because it's a lot of pressure.
Were you involved in the AKC scent work, like putting that together, or no?
Yeah, I was a rep for the first 3 years. Yeah. And I judged the first trial.
Right.
And I made some changes to what they had done.
Yeah.
It's the AKC scent work has gone insane. It's just because people just want titles and they want ribbons, and it's easy for them. It's pretty easy to get a novice title in somewhat, really.
Yeah.
And so we have a big trial next week where we have 950 runs. I mean, that's enormous.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's big.
It's a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And even before you had met Scott, I mean, you have an extensive history with dogs in California. So can you speak to that a little bit, just about just your history in dogs, even maybe before you guys were joining the Nosework organization together, and maybe just how you've seen things change and evolve, because obviously everything changes and evolves. But I feel like California dogs specifically, maybe in the past 2 decades, has had quite a turnaround.
That's a really amazing question, actually, and I'm going to answer it in 2 parts. So first of all, when I first came to the States, I volunteered at the local animal shelter, Pasadena Humane, as an adoption counselor. And I hadn't, I've always had dogs, but I really, really got into matching people with the right dogs. I found it amazing. And I was very fortunate that, I think it might be my accent, people listened to me, and when I said, no, I really think this is a bad idea, I think you should get this dog, they did it. Yeah. So I became very well known as an adoption counselor. So I ended up speaking at a conference about how to do perfect adoption, which...
You're like the adoption matchmaker.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It was kind of fun. And that's where I met John Rogerson, who sadly died, passed away last week. And I was talking to him, and he said, you need to come to England to train. He said, there's stuff that you don't know that you don't know. And he says, I really think you could be quite good at this. I was just like, oh my God. So I left the States and I went back to England for almost 9 months to train with him slowly.
Okay.
And I ended up going to work at different shelters in England and writing programs and stuff. And it was life-changing. And there's nobody even now who's as good as John Rogerson. He was just fantastic. And then I came back to Pasadena, and they hired me to head up their behavior department. And I ended up getting my green card, which was an alien of extraordinary ability, because they didn't have a category for that. And so it was an extraordinary time to be in animal welfare. But perception has changed so dramatically since then. Back then, people had a little bit more respect for shelters, I think, and their opinions. And I think now the problem is the shelters aren't getting, they're just getting certain types of dogs the whole time. There's not much diversity. So it's making them go and buy mixed breeds instead of going to the shelter. And they're buying these mixed breeds that, we're talking about doodles. Obviously, I see more doodles than anything. And I think they're quite fun dogs. I wouldn't have one myself, but there's nothing wrong with them. But that's where things have gone. And the animal shelters are suffering for it because they just don't have the population anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So and I think that's hard. And I don't think it's just because of COVID. I think it happened before then.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no. And there's logistics and rigmarole with everything in dogs, chains of command and everything else. There's a lot that goes on with the whole thing. And the matchmaking aspect of it, I mean, partially your intuition, if you will, your dog sense, if you will, and your presence with dealing with people really helped a lot of dogs and owners have beautiful, harmonious lives together. And thank you for all that you did for those pairs of dogs and owners, really.
It was a lot of fun, and I still see a lot of the people have since got other dogs, and they come into my classes and stuff. So I have an amazing base of people here that keep coming back. So it's really it's lovely.
And it's a very highly populated dog area of California. I just want to make that known. Pasadena, there's a lot of dog places that you can go. So you have a lot of options. And Scott said you got a duck tolling retriever. Tell us about this. What's the big hype here?
And now it's like a puppy mill over there.
So when I knew Scott, I had beagles, and I love my beagles. But in agility, they just were really challenging to run. So I ended up with a flat coat who I adored. But again, she did agility just because I asked her to. She was really a great nosework dog. So when I was trying to decide what dog to get, I flipped a coin between. I always like retrievers. I'm not a big herding person. It just doesn't suit my personality. There's nothing wrong with them. It just doesn't suit me. But I love what I can get from a retriever. So years ago, my parents had a duck collar. So I was just like, oh, well, I'll just sort of find it. And I ended up getting Mr. Spectacular. My dog, Blaze, who I lost last year from cancer, but he was amazing. And he became the #1 collar in everything. He was just fantastic. But I now have two. I have Zest, who's equally as fantastic. She's 6 years old. She's an agility flying banana. And she's really good for me because I have to really pay attention. Blaze was so easy. I would just say left, he'd go left. I'd say out, he'd go out. Yeah. Zest is just like, are you sure about that? I'm just like, yeah, I really mean go left.
Yeah.
So she's making me a much better handler. And then I decided to breed her to get a puppy. And I was always expecting to keep one of the boys, but I ended up keeping one of the girls. And she's lovely. They're just. So I have these two girls. Zest is 6, and Tabor's now 7 months and has her first scent work competition next weekend.
Oh, great! So, yeah.
Where are the other siblings? Are they in your classes? Are they local to you, or are they?
Yeah, one went up north, but otherwise they all stayed down here.
Nice.
I put the puppies on odor at 5 weeks, and so they're really good at scent work because I told everybody who took one, you have to do scent work, otherwise you can't have the puppy.
Yeah.
and so Tabor, my little girl, is competing against her brother next weekend. So that'll be kind of fun, I think. And it's healthy competition.
Oh, that's nice.
Well,
that's
compared
nice.
to the Beagles, the Tullers must be a breeze.
Now, were there some male puppies?
There are a lot of dog. I mean, I
know.
So the great thing about them is they're little. So both of them are under 30 pounds, which is a great size. I travel a lot with Zest all over the country. But they have a really nice work ethic, and they're not. I love flat coats too, so I really like those two kind of retrievers. I like they're a lot of dogs. They're not for the lighthearted, and I had to be very careful who I sold puppies to, because everybody thinks they're really cute, and they are really cute, but
they're a handful.
And actually, I've got to tell you, this is a brilliant story. I was actually in Pasadena just the other day, and I was walking both Tabor and Zest. And this guy comes up to me and he goes, wow, are those two domesticated foxes? And I said, you can guess what they were. I was just like, oh my God. So, and so he went around telling everybody he saw these two domesticated foxes.
It's funny.
They must have been very well behaved to be domesticated foxes.
Now, which one was it you were telling me? Did you lose your wallet or something? Or was it someone else's?
No, this is Zest. So I had my phone stolen from my car.
That's what it was.
And you put the Find Your Phone thing on, and there's nothing they can do with a stolen phone. So I don't know why they take them. I mean, it's just silly. And it took me to an area in La Cañada where there's a movie theater, and there's a big dumpster there. And I told Zest to find it. And so she kept alerting on the dumpster. But I was just like, I'm not going to get in the dumpster and get my phone back. That's just disgusting. I'll just claim it on my insurance. So 2 weeks later, I get this phone call from this AAA guy saying, please don't think I'm weird, but I found your driver's license and your phone on the freeway. And I said, oh my God, I can tell you exactly where it was. Was it here? And he said, yes. And what it was it was on the overpass above the dumpster. So Zest was flirting, I don't know how many feet is that, like probably 50, 60 feet below, when it was actually up above her. I mean, I wouldn't have thought to go up on the freeway.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great sport. Lost item recovery is really fun.
And very functional.
Totally functional. Totally.
That reminds me of a story back when we trained together where you had your husband hiding a Q-tip and it got stuck in the door of your car. It went down inside the window slot. So your dog is alerting on your freaking car all the time. You remember that?
I do. I made him take the car door off and get it back.
That happened with us. We were doing bed bug detection with my Malinois. And, Scott, I mean, his wardrobe, I'm sure, was similar back then, rips and everything, everywhere. He had a rip in his pants and the vial flew down to his ankle. And my dog came in and he started alerting on his ankle and he's like, go find the bugs. And then later that day, he's like, oh, well, it was there. He was right. So there's a lot of fun stuff that can happen with the scent work.
crazy things that happen, and they don't lie. This is a great thing.
Yes.
Everybody talks about the dogs lying. They never lie.
Especially their noses don't.
Their noses, they might do other things, but with their noses, they don't lie.
Yeah.
And that's when you realize how good their nose is, it makes you more paranoid about handling of scent, where you're keeping it, where it went, washing your hands, washing this, washing that, because you know it's everywhere. You know, you start moving the scent around, it can be everywhere, you know?
It is. And actually, when I host AKC trials, I'm a real control freak. I don't let the judges touch anything because they just sort of rush in and hurry around. And so I try to keep it as clean as possible. And we certainly, as a club, have the reputation of having trials that are very well run and fair and set correctly.
Yeah.
You know, it's strong stuff.
No, it's nice. Like you were telling me about when you have your demo dog check a find, make sure everything is working the way it should. If the demo dog is having trouble finding it, you'll reset it to make sure that it's clear that the dog can find it, you know.
Absolutely.
Within the level of the dog's working.
Right. The sad part is that some people, in my experience, in all, not in NASDA, but in NSCSW and AKC, they want to be clever and they want to set these like clever hides that really are just there to trick the dogs. So I used to teach all the judges' education for the AKC, training all the new judges. And I'd say, if you think, oh, this is going to be a really sexy hot hide, then don't set it because you're just trying to trick the dog. What is it? What's the thought process that you're going through to say that you want to set that hide? You know, it's the hand is near to having a heart attack as it is. You don't want to make it any worse.
Sure.
So it's to me, it's just so irrelevant and sad when people try to do that. So I'm very specific about the judges that I hire. I'm very, I'm a real control freak about it. They either love it or they hate it. You know, I don't. But my exhibitors know that they're taken care of, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and that's hugely important in this day and age. And it's a lot of money and a lot of people's time and everything else. And going to these trials, it's happening a lot in agility, but you'll get to a trial and people are upset by the course and stuff. Like if you're going to dedicate your whole weekend to something, like you want to make sure that you're there and it's set up in a proper way and everything else. So thank you for taking that extra time for your exhibitors and for the integrity of the sport. Like these dog sports, especially at a higher level, they should have a decent level of integrity. So thank you for keeping that.
The nice thing is you're an advocate for the dog and you're not trying to screw up the handlers. You want to make sure the dog can perform the way it's been trained to perform,
Right. And the key is that, not everyone's going to be happy.
Oh, of course, yeah.
That's just how it is, but we try very hard. And as long as I don't mess up the dogs, I don't get too upset if the handlers are unhappy because they just misread it.
Yeah.
If the dogs did well and the handlers just misread it, I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah.
But it's one thing I get to do a lot of is I get to judge a lot of breed specialties. So it's like all beagles or all Fischlers. And then it's really fun because you can really start to see some breed tendencies coming into play.
Sure.
Yeah.
And because
the Beaslers would be a joy.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. I've judged 3 of the beagle specialties. It's just great.
Yeah, I'm sure they love the scent work. So Scott says you have pretty fun classes. I guess you serve wine and cheese. I feel like I should move to California and train with you.
I took an agility class from you with my Malinois so that I could just broaden his horizons. And you guys are all having a big party. I thought it was great. This is at the church yard in Altadena. Can you hear me?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, we do. I have some special classes. I have one called the Wednesday Sniff and Sip, which is Wednesday night class. It's a real high achieving class, so they always bring champagne. Somebody's already done something really clever. So that's tonight. Yes, to me, it's part of the community, and I really enjoy getting to know my students, and most of them are friends, and I enjoy watching their dogs develop into great performing dogs.
It's being a dog trainer, you can change the course of someone's life. So it seems like you're impacting your clients and now your friends and everything in a very positive way by doing what you're doing. So that's important.
Well, and to me, I get really upset when people say, oh, I train dogs because I don't like people. Actually, I really like the people, and the dogs are the extra bonus.
Yeah.
I love watching the people see what their dogs can do. And I'm not for everybody. And some people are just like, well, you're too pushy, or I don't drink wine. It's just like, okay, that's fine. But it's a fun community. It really is. It really is.
Well, you definitely develop a culture around your classes, and people just keep coming back, and I'm sure they're there for years with you.
Yeah. I have one person who, her dog's still alive. Her dog is 16. She was in that first ever scent work class that you took.
Yeah.
And she's still coming to class.
That's nice.
I don't think she's got much time left, but she still comes.
Yeah.
So.
Who, the handler or the dog?
Both. Terrible. God,
he's always the worst. Hosting a podcast with Scott is the most challenging thing I've done in my life to date. You never know what he's going to say live.
No editing.
Yeah, exactly. Live podcast. Here we go. All right. Tell us the big debate here. Which country has better dog handlers? Because now you've been in the States a bunch and you've been in England. Tell us what your thought process is there.
Hang on. Before you answer, do you have your permanent residency now?
I'm a dual national.
Okay. So now you're not going to get kicked out. Go ahead. Tell us what you want.
I think it's a really good question, actually. And when I saw it, I was just like, wow, because culturally we're so different. And our way of handling is so different because of the relationship that we have with our dogs. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. I've been in America for a long time. The relationship that the British have with their dogs is slightly different, and it's a little bit more, I want to say...
utilitarian.
It's a little bit more utilitarian, yeah. And I'm very utilitarian. So I choose a dog that I want to be my teammate and to be my best partner ever. Right. And I try to help them along that process. The American public don't do that at all. They're far more into the emotional response of a dog, and even the performance people. So, and then they get upset if they don't get the performance that they want, but they didn't think about what they were selecting for. Mm-hmm. So when I go and look for a puppy, and in fact, even when I chose my own puppy recently, Tabor, I did the same thing that I always do when I choose a puppy. And I was happy to walk away. I would have been happy to walk away if none of the puppies did what I wanted them to do, which it's really hard for people to do. If I have students who go and look at a litter of puppies and I say, well, if they don't do this, walk away. And they go, oh, no, well, I'm going to get a puppy today. And it's just like, and I think that's the difference. I think it comes right down to selection.
And I'm going to say, hearing it, practicality also. We can say utilitarian, but practicality of how you approach dogs and look at dogs, I think we're different here in America, it seems.
Very much so. And there's nothing right or wrong about it. It is different. I think I'm lucky in that I have the best of both because I've been here so long. And I think I have some, my family think I'm really American. They just say, oh my God, you sound so American. It's just terrible.
What happened to you?
and I think that's really funny. So, but I think I have the best of both because I can balance it. So I'm very lucky. But yeah, I think the utilitarian aspect is certainly important to me. And I get what I want. Whenever I select a puppy to be my teammate, I make sure that they're going to be able to do the work that I want them to do, and I get it. And time again, and everybody always says, "Oh gosh, you're
so lucky."
And I go, "It's not luck. I'm choosing what I want for the job." And Zest, because Blaze was so amazing, everyone's like, "Poor Zest." I said, "She's going to be brilliant. She's just going to be just as good as him but on a different level. I'm going to just have to work a lot harder for it." But we're finally coming together. She's now 6, and she's finally realizing that I might know which way the numbers go. Sometimes.
It's a female thing too. Well, thank you for that response. Just because Scott's like, let's figure out where she thinks they have the better dog handlers because she has good experience with both. But I just, you do have good experience with both parts and you've dipped your toes in both waters for a long period of time. So I appreciate your response there.
Well, and I think that makes sense to me. It's an interesting question, and I think it's, and it can be developed. I think I try to develop a more utilitarian approach to my clients here, and some of them actually get it and will. In fact, interestingly enough, with the puppies, I had one home really wants to do field and one home hates field. But the dog that, when I put them on birds at 5 weeks, the one puppy was brilliant at it. And the one says, oh my God, I'm really scared of the pigeon. But they both wanted the opposite dogs. And I said, no, you have to have the bird dog and you have to have the non-bird dog, or go for another litter. I said, it's just not fair on this, it's strike actually, on strike to go into a home where he can't do field. He's wired to do field. He picked up that pigeon at 5 weeks and brought it right back to me. No training whatsoever. So why would I let that dog go and sit at home and not do field? It would be terrible.
Good for you.
Listen, Penny, I know you have a class in about, 15 minutes at your place?
Yeah, it's just been rained out. We've got torrential rain here. That's why I'm wearing a sweater. It's freezing. It's like really.
But,
so my class has been cancelled.
Yeah. Is there
your class was canceled, you said?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's canceled.
All right, so you don't have that urgency.
anything that we're missing as far as life with Scott or life and dogs or future aspirations? Anything else that you want wisdom to impart?
I think as trainers, all of us, I think it's our responsibility to make people really enjoy what they have and really enjoy the dogs that they have and celebrate them. You know, when I lost Blaze last year, it was an absolute heartbreak, and obviously I cried and everything. But in the end, the bottom line was he spent 9 years with me, making me look like the most amazing trainer on the planet. And he chose me. And it was like, we had this incredible 9 years that nobody can ever take away. And he'll still be talked about forever because he was just that dog. But I think we need to encourage people to really celebrate what they have. And, I hear so many complaints, oh, my dog does this, my dog does that. It's just like, well, did they pee outside today? It's just like, yeah, well, then so celebrate that for your young puppy, And I think people get so negative, and I see it all the time in agility, as I'm sure you do. And it's just like, yeah, but your dog walked up to the line, listened to you. Just because you made a poor handling choice, it wasn't actually your dog's fault. Rarely is it the dog's fault.
Yeah. I agree. And I'll even take that to the pet dog realm where Scott and I are kind of existing most frequently now is celebrate your, crazy rescue. Like that's our message in a sense too. I'm so glad you said that. Like celebrate what you do have. Let's make it as good as it can be. And let's make this the best partnership possible because, people so often are just like, oh, but I want him to be like the neighbor's dog and I want him to be like this. But you have this dog and universally there's a reason that this dog is in your home. So let's make it work and let's make it end up well.
And I think sometimes there's times when, as a trainer, we have to be responsible to say, you know what, this isn't going to work. Mm-hmm. Sure. This is really, and I do that not a lot, but I do it. Say, you know what, this isn't going to work. Let's rehome this dog, take a break, find something that's a bit more suitable for you.
Well, that gets back to the Americans who say, oh, no, I'm not going to let go of this dog. We're going to make it work.
and this leads to one about muzzles. It's just like, why are people so funny about a dog wearing a muzzle? If the dog's biting people and you don't want to give up the dog, then train it to wear a muzzle and then it can't.
Yeah. That's a great thing to consider. Teach the dog to wear a muzzle.
We're all about muzzles.
We do this all the time.
Yep.
We do it all the time with people, yeah.
And people go, oh, no, I can't do that. And I said, so you'd rather euthanize the dog than have it wear a muzzle? It's just like, it's biting for a reason. I don't know why it's biting people.
Yeah.
But if it's wearing a muzzle, then it can't. I don't understand it. It's a real, in England, all the dogs wear muzzles all the time. My dogs are trained to wear muzzles. Yeah. I have them wear muzzles just for the kicks and giggles because I think it's funny.
Jess would like me to wear a muzzle half the time.
I think that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, you know probably just as well as I do. Right. Well, Penny, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad that you and Scott were able to reconnect last month, and thank you so much for coming on the program. Anything else that you want to say?
I want to say again, Penny, you've motivated me to start getting back involved with my dog and doing some more scent work. And we're going to have you out.
He just wants to win the shed trial that you're going to host, so now he's got to train.
I would love it. We can talk privately about it, but I would love it. It would be really fun. Your students would love it. It's really level 1 is really easy. They even have to pick up the antler.
Sounds good.
All right. We're putting on our 2023 to-do
Let's
list.
wrap it
Shed
up.
trial in Maine. Thank you so much, Penny. Thank you for joining us.
Penny.
And
It's
if
been
you
awesome.
guys are out in the Pasadena area, please check out Scott Fox Dog Training. Penny Scott Fox is out there, and she is a badass. And my husband's wearing antlers. Okay. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Happy Wednesday, and keep it quirky.
Thanks, Penny.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.